Barriers to Girls' Education. I request the panelists for this session to take their places on stage. Our panelists for this session are Sadia Hussain, A.H. Nayyar, Malick Shahbaz, Vibeke, Jensen, and Haroona, Jatoi. Our moderator for this session is Safiya, Aftab. I will take this opportunity to introduce the moderator for this session. Safiya Aftab holds graduate degrees in economics and public administration and has had varied professional experience, including permanent staff positions with developing agencies in consulting, both as a freelance consultant and with firms, and in research. She's currently working as manager of the Strategic Learning Unit, a project research unit in Dai Awaz.
Thank you very much for being here. The session is on barriers to girls' education, but it's based on a qualitative study that was done under the aegis of DAI Awaz. It was a study conducted in 3 districts in southern Punjab, and it focused on the reasons why girls are either out of school or why they tend to drop out, because this is a problem that is referred to again and again in most of our studies and policy research on education, but there is very little in-depth work on why exactly it's happening. There is some data, for instance, in the PSLM, but that's quantitative data, just a list of options that you answer. Very little in-depth work and very little work with parents and guardians as to why this phenomenon occurs. I'll just introduce our panelists, but just to tell you, the study was carried out by an organization called Society for the Protection of the Rights of the Child, SPARK. It's an NGO which has worked for quite a few years, and they've done a lot of work in child protection. I'll go ahead and introduce the panelists. On my left is Sadia Hussain, who's the Executive Director in SPARK. She's the main author of the report, and she organized the research. She'll be doing the presentation. We have Ms. Vibeke Jensen, who's the UNESCO representative in Pakistan. Mr. Shahbaz Tahir, who's a practitioner, an NGO worker, a development professional who's worked extensively on education policy. We have Dr. Haroona Jatoi, an academic and policymaker formerly associated with the Ministry of Education. And on the extreme left, Dr. Nayyar, who has been a professor at Quaid-e-Azam University in the physics department, and more importantly is a very well-known commentator on education policy. He's also been associated with STPI. So I think we can start now. Sadia, we'll start with you. If you could just make your presentation. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and good evening. Thank you very much for being here and part of the audience who would be listening to this recent research that we conducted and concluded just last year. And actually it was the month of December, so this is kind of a very recent study. Thank you again to Dai Awaz Response Fund and all our 4 discussants. You have heard recently about their introduction. Before we move on to the slideshow, I hope everyone can see the presentation here. You can see the title, which is quite self-explanatory, though the title cover might give you an expression that it's all about happy things, but that's not the case. As the title says, that we were supposed to identify the barriers of girls' education, and we worked hard to identify as many barriers as we could. So we primarily worked in 3 districts of the South Punjab, where the girls' education, the enrollment of girls in the school, the retention rate is already quite an identified issue for the past several years. I just shared with you that we targeted 3 districts of the south of Punjab, that is Multan, Bahawalpur, and Muzaffargarh, which you can identify on the map here. And let us move swiftly to the next slide. I would like to share that which objectives we actually set in before us to conduct this study or to design the tools of this study or to survey the actual situation. The basic objectives that we had in front of us were the enrollment, retention, dropout rate, and we also worked on the internal and external factors that could impact girls' education. To have a very in-depth and comprehensive study, we conducted an in-depth study about the institutional capacity of not just the schools, but the departments which are one of the main stakeholders for girls' education or their well-being. Now, beside conducting the study with the tools, we also used case studies. So we conducted 4 case studies in each of the district, comprising almost 12 case studies, to have a complete representative of the analysis of the main report. Now, the tools that we used were basically focus group discussions, and for the focus group, the participants that we used were the parents, which included both mothers and fathers. For girl students also, we used focus group discussions, but for school-based officials, that is head teachers and teachers, and also for the government officials, that is DO or ADOs, we use mainly IDI, that is in-depth interviews, and KII, that is key informant interviews. Now, beside these 2 basic tools, the third one that I just mentioned was the case study, which actually identifies some very, very important yet harsh realities about girls' education. So, how those focus group discussions were designed, what was the sample size, since we had only 30 schools, that is 10 in each of the districts. So we wanted to cover as much data as possible so that these 30 schools could be representative of all the 3 districts in general. So we had 60 focus group discussions, that is 30 for fathers and 30 for mothers, because we wanted to have a complete input or feedback of both mothers and fathers. And then we had 30 focus group discussion with the girl students, that is 1 in each school. Beside these focus group, when it came to IDI, we had 30 in-depth interviews of school-based teachers, that is we selected 1 teacher from each of the school, and then a head teacher from each of the school, which again makes 30 head teachers and then 30 school teachers, to have a feedback or to learn about the input and efforts of the government officials. We conducted 2 interviews, each from the district, which was again 1 from the male official, government official, and 1 from the female. And then, as I just shared earlier, that we had 4 case studies from each of the districts, so 12 in total. Now, the themes that we worked on were basically these 6 themes that we wanted to identify or we wanted to work comprehensively on. These were family and background characteristics, the economic factors, the cultural factors, the psychological factors on girls and their parents, the school environment, and the role of government. And why we use these themes, the simple answer is that during the literature review, we found out that the similar studies in some other developing countries, when they were conducted, these were the main themes that were used. So in order to have a base or a knowledge base for our study, we use primarily these emerging themes. So what were the key findings? Moving on to the key findings, I would begin with the very first slide that gives a very clear idea that what were our main key findings. As I just shared, that we wanted to focus on the enrollment, retention, and dropout. So we learned something very interesting and surprising here. What we could see after analysis was that in the nursery grade for all the 3 districts, the enrollment was almost the same. If it not exactly the same among all the 3, but it was like around 500, 400, or higher side on the 300. And the trend on the decline towards grade 5 was also quite same across 3 districts. You can see that the enrollment rate at the nursery level for all the 3 districts is higher as compared to the enrollment rate, which goes down to 1/4 of the number of girls enrolled at the nursery level. So this is the kind or the rate of decline which was observed across the 3 districts. So it means that the girls are enrolled at the nursery level, but there were reasons, there were rationales for which there was a decline in enrollment, and at grade 5, when the primary is about to conclude, the number of girls were very, very low. Now this information is shared here with a little different angle here, where I'm sharing a Pakistan Education Atlas information and data, which shows the same trend, which validates the same trend, which is giving you a very clear picture that enrollment at primary level is somewhere around 1,398,075, and it drops down to, when it came to assessing the middle or the secondary level enrollment, it came down to 25,404 only, which is much less than even half, much less what was there at the primary level. And this is one of the examples taken from Multan district. But on the contrary, there were some schools that we found across all the 30 schools in which the enrollment was increasing gradually from nursery to grade 5. There were very few schools out of those 30 schools, but it was very exciting for us to find out exactly why this trend is there in some of the schools. And through the interviews and the focus group discussions from the parents and the girls, we found out that the reason of this increase is nothing but the quality of teaching, which was found a little better, at least from parents and girl students' perspective. They were kind of satisfied with the quality of teaching and learning there. Basic facilities, if not 100% provided, but it was there to a good extent, great extent, but there was better infrastructure as compared to other schools. Then availability of water is there. And safe route to school. That is, it was safe for girls to travel from home to school and back and forth. Safety at school was also better. It was, and this was actually concluded from the perspective of all girl students, parents, their teachers, and the government officials as well. Since in the beginning I shared the emerging themes, and if you remember that one of the emerging theme was the economy of any community. So we wanted to dig deeper and wanted to learn that how the economic condition of parents could impact girls' education. And what we found out, surprisingly, was that the average income per month was much less than the average expense of almost every household across all the 3 districts, which you can see it here clearly. The dark color actually shows the average income per month, and the lighter shows the average expense per month. So if it is not double, actually it's almost double in Multan, but in Muzaffargarh it's again higher, and so is the case in Bahawalpur. Now, when we found out that what the girls are doing after they are dropped out of the school, or the girls who are not attending the schools at all, or who have never gone to the school, and what we found out that somewhat there was similarity, that what are they doing at home or during the school hours, but when they are not going to school. There was similarity, but there were some things which were different across these 2 categories of enrolled children, which were never enrolled, and the children who went to school but they got dropped out. And these were the main differences. The children who were never enrolled, they were found mainly involved in begging for money in the streets, markets, and main roads. And the children, girls who went to school but then they dropped out for some reasons, They were also involved in some kind of work, but it wasn't beggary, basically. It was, some kind of skill work, like embroidery, creating arts and craft for sale. So this was the main difference which was found between the girls who dropped out and the girls who never went to school. Another aspect that we wanted to find out about was the parents' level of education. So this was again, I would say it was not surprising because the trend was going in the same direction. When we found out that the parents of children who are out of school, they are more illiterate as compared to the parents of enrolled children. So that implies that when the parents are educated, not highly educated, even if they are educated at primary level, they tend to send their girls to school more as compared to the ones who are not enrolled. When we inquired about the trend in the communities or the impact of communities from the parents and from the girls, their response was that it's the tradition for generations, and in some families no one goes to schools. So they're completely unaware of the significance of sending the girls to school, because there are communities and communities. There's a large part of population who have never sent girls to the school. So they do not even know if there is an option of going to the schools. There is no practice actually that exists. And another important thing which was highlighted during these interviews was that education does not guarantee employment. Now this is a very important point for everyone working in the civil society or the government or even for the donor agencies, that the basic concept that we have is that we work so that we can secure our good future. Here they don't see secured future, so they don't see any benefit of educating their girls. Also, early marriage is quite prevalent in that part, and the reason behind early marriage is, again, the safety and security, since those communities are not considered safe for the girls, so getting them married is considered one of the ways of providing security or early safety to the girls in the environment of those communities. No ROI, that is return on investment, which is again related to the point where it says education does not guarantee employment, that they say that what is the point of investing even a bit on girls if they don't get any return on this kind of investment. What was the parents' perception on the appropriate age of girls' marriage, which is quite clear from this representation. 0 to 25 is the age of the girls, and these are the focus group discussion across the 3 districts, which clearly shows that parents of never enrolled children, they thought that the girls should be married by age 15 or little above 15. They do not even want to wait till 20. But the parents of the dropout children, though they are not attending the school, but they think that they can wait till 20 or 25 to have their girls married. So the overall conclusion from the focus group that we got about the school quality was that the in terms of basic facilities, they said that there is a lack of basic facilities, there is no availability of drinking water, toilets, electricity, boundary wall, and playgrounds. And here I would like to emphasize on one of a very critical point, that in each and every school that we visited for this study, water was really an issue, which was raised from the parents and from the girls' side. And the opinion they shared with us was that you can compromise on water when it is boys' school, but when it is girls' school, we cannot compromise on 2-3 main things, which include water and safety and security. So the classrooms were found overcrowded, there was lack of security measures, and in terms of teaching and learning, corporal punishment was quite prevalent, involvement of teachers in personal tasks such as mopping, dishwashing, and fetching. When we'll come to the other part of the presentation where the girls are sharing their opinion, we will find out that in many of the schools how teachers are engaging girls in something which is not related to school activities, which is not related to, which could be considered as ethical or professional in the school setting. And another major concern they shared was about the school distance, that the schools are situated at large distances from home. There's no transport, nothing, no local transport available, and therefore there is a security issue. And the support from the government, when we shared with them that the government has recently introduced several incentives. So unfortunately, there were many parents who were not aware of those incentives. So as a result of that, they did not want to send their girls to school because they did not know if such incentives even exist or not. Girls also shared some very interesting information with us in terms of basic facilities. They shared that it gets too stuffy in the classroom, it gets very hot, and especially if any of us have visited South Punjab, we can imagine that how terrible it gets in summers. And they said that sometimes it's unbearable to sit in the classroom. So as a result, they simply either drop out during the summers or there's a lot of absenteeism in that weather. So the classrooms are congested, there is not sufficient furniture, they have to sit on the floor sometimes. When it comes to using the toilet every day, they have to go home and use the toilet. So the girls whose houses are nearby, they live in the nearby community, they manage to come back. But there are many girls whose house is not close to school, they simply don't come back when they go for using the toilet. And there are no playgrounds and library. In terms of quality of teaching, they share that it depends on the teacher's mood. If the mood is good, then the day is going to be good for the students as well. If the mood is bad, then that day is really bad for all the students. They don't like us asking questions in the classroom, and that's why the hesitation is quite a common phenomena there. They're scared of their teachers because when they ask, and if it is considered an unnecessary questioning, then they are sometimes beaten up with the stick, or the teachers may shout at them, or they may ask them to stand outside. And when we came to assessing the teachers or head teachers' quality of teaching, because we found it directly impacting the overall scenario of girls' education, we earlier had an assumption that maybe it's the salary which happen to impact girls' education or the quality of teaching and learning inside the classroom. But surprisingly, we found out that the salaries were not bad. They were mostly above 25,000, and the pay scale was not dependent on their basic qualification or their level of trainings that they have attended. You can see it here from this slide that there were teachers who were even FA, and the salary was around 39,000, which is much higher than the salary of the teacher who is around maybe MA, and his or her salary was found to be only 25,000. So it depends on the level of seniority. The teacher training that they have received was also at a level that not all of them had attended all the trainings. There were few who had attended refresher courses, CT and PTC, which is kind of a basic course. But in terms of the continuous professional development, we found the aspects missing. Yes. Okay, we'll move faster. Thank you, Safiya. And so was the case with the head teacher, which is again showing the same trend. Now, I would like to move a bit faster on the case studies. Case studies that we selected or collected from these 3 districts were actually a clear reflection of the analysis that we got from the main content of the report or main analysis of the report. I've highlighted it with the red letters, where it says school quality or safety. These are the synopses of the summaries or the case studies that we have included in the book. The girls at school were sent out daily by teachers to get their grocery items, so they were pulled out of the schools. There was cases of rape and abduction, so that's why they never went back to schools, which is again a matter of safety. In terms of school quality, the girls were used as maids by the teachers, which we have seen in the first one. And some of them, they also shared that the route was unsafe. And there was one incident in which a student shared that they did not complete their homework, so the teacher made her stand in the scorching sun for hours. She could not stand the heat and fainted. Upon the inhuman treatment from teacher, her parents decided to discontinue the school. Now, as we can see that the problems or the barriers that were highlighted or that were identified throughout this report, they were kind of quite complex, and they look like the way it is presented here, that each and every factor was dependent on the other, and there were many factors that were impacting girls' education. So in the report, you will see at the end, there are very specific recommendations made at all the levels of the stakeholders, which included the community and the SMC level. SMC is the school management community, which includes parents and the school staff. At school level, that what the school can do, at education department level, at other government departments level, and there are some specific recommendations for future research and advocacy, which could further dig in deeper into the analysis of the report. Do we have a minute, or we need to? Okay, so I think during the discussion we can highlight the recommendations if possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, that was very insightful. Can I start with you, Vibeke? Would you like to talk about quality issues? We see again and again that education quality is an issue and which is impacting dropouts. So could you say something about that?
Well, thank you very much, Safiya, and good afternoon, assalamu alaikum, everyone. I have to say I'm really delighted to be here on a Sunday afternoon and see such a big audience, which is very, very promising, I think, in terms of really generating a debate about girls' education, and also hopefully can we all work together to get this problem out of the way. So congratulations to Spark for having conducted this study and for presenting it. In Pakistan today we have 5 to 6 million children out of primary school. We have 23 to 24 million children between the age of 5 and 16 who are not in school and who, according to Pakistan's constitution, ought to be there. I'm not being very specific on the figures because the debate today is not to debate whether it's 24.5 or 0.8 million children, because the bottom line is that it's far too many. And that we, Pakistan as a state, but all of us have an obligation to really work on this issue, which is hitting the girls in particular, because the majority of children out of schools are girls. Now, we have worked on this issue for many years, and we have done many studies, as it also came out from the presentation, and we have long lists of barriers to girls' education in Pakistan. Very often, though, we are, mentioning on the top of that list that it's poverty or it's socio-cultural constraints. And yes, as the study from Punjab showed, there are issues. There are parents who are so poor that they cannot afford to send their children to school. But, and there are pockets of socio-cultural resistance. But actually, as the study also shows, there's a lot of work that we have to do on the supply side. There's a lot of work that the Ministry of Education, the Department of Education, and all stakeholders with them have to do in terms of improving the quality of the supply. And that means having children, having teachers, well-trained teachers in place. It means having schools in a reasonable distance from the communities. It means having water and sanitation and drinking water available in school. And it means having quality textbooks and meaningful learning processes taking place in the classroom. And if we ask ourselves, and if we go out to schools in remote, marginalized rural areas in Pakistan, we will find that the vast majority of schools do not have these basic facilities and teachers and textbooks in place. When I read through the study, because I had the opportunity to look at the study last week, there was one of the case studies that struck me in particular to illustrate what I just said. And that was the story about Tayyabi that was also referred to. A girl going to of a very poor family, going to the public primary school, being punished by the teacher for a little mistake, standing out in the sun for hours, ending up fainting and going home and telling her parents, who then pull her out of school. Now these parents were very, very committed to education and actually scraped their pockets and their budget and really managed to send her into a low-cost private school nearby. But the story goes that they could not continue because of poverty issues to keep her in the private school. However, and that's why it's so important to unpack these children not in school because of poverty, because had the public school provided a quality of minimum education without corporal punishment, etc., she would have stayed there and she would have continued her education. And hopefully she would also have continued to the middle school. So we have a lot to do in terms of getting children into school, but if we are not also simultaneously really working on the quality of education, they will not stay there for very long. Parents will take them out because there may be other priorities in the family, and we will not be able to get the number of children in school that we need to have. Just one final word. Since this is a literature festival, I just wanted to also connect the fact that we are talking about girls' education, because books are not in schools in Pakistan today to a very large extent. Not only textbooks are not there on time, but we are also really lacking books which are fun, which are entertaining, which give children the desire to read and to enjoy learning. And so this is where the connection is, and this is yet another problem that we have to work on.
Can I move to Dr. Jatoi, who will talk about the policy implications of what we learned from the study?
Thank you very much. Congratulations to Spark and Sadia for presenting a very comprehensive, realistic, to-the-point study on barriers to girls' education in Pakistan. I think every one of us would agree with the findings, whoever is familiar with the education system in Pakistan, with the findings that these are the reasons because of which girls and females are not into school systems. And Vibeke has sort of elaborated, substantiated the findings with the background factors and importance of education, and briefly touch basing with the statistics. I would like to handle this from a slightly different perspective, which is because when laypersons talk about education system, they talk of that educational policies are not good. Generally, you would see this as a generalized comment. And before I talk what I am planning to say, I would also like to agree with Sadia that although the factors are known most of our hypotheses are confirmed with this study, and generally it is said with limited scope of studies, it is said that recommendations or findings are not applicable, cannot be generalized throughout Pakistan. But these recommendations and these findings, I think to a large extent can be generalized and can be applicable to all over Pakistan, particularly with reference to girls, their absence from school system, their dropping out early, and their career planning. My argument is that government realizes this, girls' education, female education, their quick dropouts, background factors, as a challenge. They try to address it through education policy preparations. Preparations are generally good, gender gaps are highlighted, policies are made, targets are set. But what goes wrong is at the point when these policies are being implemented. My understanding, my sort of consistent thought over this is that policies are not implemented because some of the factors within the system, which are lack of quality components, lack of commitment from the government side, and even government recognizes this, that lack of commitment and lack of implementation is the major root cause of the girls' education's status, what we have right now. And that implementation gap is recognized, still it is not worked out in detail. There is no implementation plan that if girls' sensitive policies are made, how they can be addressed, how can they be made practical, how these can be sort of implemented at the grassroots levels. And one factor which is sort of touch-based by Sadia, that community's approach and parents' education, but I think it's the mindset change. Mindsets, with due apology to the males present here, mindset amongst the male community and parents is the one of the consistent reason that why we have not achieved what we should have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jatoi.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to say
No,
more?
no, it's fine. I can, during the answer sessions, I can
Thank you so much.
explain.
I'm sorry to hurry you up, but we are very short now. Shahbaz, would you like to talk about the issue at the community level?
Sure, thank you very much. Let me put something like a perspective from a practitioner. And I believe this study puts forward some very good finding and very concrete recommendations. Having said that, I feel this sort of studies, this study and other studies like this, they need to be seen as a check for how policies are working in the field. And I feel there are things, for instance, we have been, if you see the last education policy, and we saw the similar sort of problems. For instance, this studies put forward a case where we see again a pyramid sort of structure in girls enrollment, where we see high level of enrollment at the primary level, but that gradually decreases when it goes up. And I think the situation is still the same, which means that the incentive, that the strategies and the policy sort of stuff we took forward doesn't work. I think another thing which very concrete and which should be seen at this level, which I did not see rightly coming, or maybe not that focused in the study, is like the security in terms of girls' education. And I think over the years we see a lot of security concerns, especially in South, where we are having, and especially after this rise of more, fundamentalist and extremist sort of thing, and their onslaught on education, especially in schools. I think that needs to be put forward further. I believe this study can be instrumental in doing a couple of things. For instance, when organizations like NGOs and other people who are education practitioner, they put forward like their argument in terms of advocacy and all that stuff. I think this provides a lot of good evidence in terms of taking that forward. But I believe that's one aspect of taking this study forward. The other could be where we need to get engaged in sort of lobbying with the people who fund education. And for instance, if you see how Punjab government is doing, there are a lot of funds to reform the education sector are coming from major organizations like DFID, World Bank and all that stuff. I think organizations like us who really want to use these results, they need to get engaged in a lobbying with these organizations, because it's not only government they need to be pressurized, and the one is like bottom-up pressure, which communities, which organization like us are doing. And I think the other way is where the people who are pouring in money into the education sector, they need to work through these recommendations and the findings to see how we can improve the education stuff further.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Dr. Nayyar, last one to come up, but I think you wanted to discuss broader issues in the education sector, and then we'll open up the floor for questions.
Okay, give me about 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Okay. 4 minutes. 4 minutes, okay. I commend the report for going a long way in highlighting the very important issues in the girls' education, the salience of the issue. Much hard work has gone into this. I think a lot more perhaps needs to be done. Dr. Haroona is correct in saying that perhaps whatever the report is highlighting is not just applicable to the south of Punjab. It may be actually true for the entire country, at least for some of the regions which are not in the mainstream. I think all these issues are very important. The thing is that the girl education faces many challenges in this society, and these challenges come from, I will now put on the top of the list mullahs, our religious leaders, the way they have started to openly talk against girls' education, the way the rule of mullahs in the regions of Swat and Buner and Shangla stopped girls from going to school. So this is very clear that there is a section of religious persons in our society who very openly say that girls should not get education, should not go to school. So this is the greatest impediment that we have in this society. And we all know that the role of mullah is increasing in the society everywhere. It is not just confined to tribal areas, it is now spreading everywhere, even in Islamabad. And wherever a mullah has a loudspeaker in his hand, he actually spreads. One thing that he spreads is amount of restrictions that he can put in the way of women of the society. So mullah is the first impediment in the other is customs and traditions. The study was done in a very feudal area, an area where there were urban areas as well as rural areas, but the rural areas are very deeply steeped in feudal traditions, and in the areas where there is a deep feudal tradition, usually the customs prevail, and the customs go against women and women's education. And I think these two things go together: the mullahs and the feudal lords, and stop women from getting education. And the third attitude actually is social attitude. We see even in cities, these harassment of girls when they go to school. This is seen everywhere, in every city, every village, everywhere, and where the girls have to travel some distance to be able to go to their school, you find a large opportunity to these elements to harass girls. So now, there is this now Article 25A put in the Constitution. Every child has a right to education. The state is responsible for providing education to girls. Now this has been now put. A part of that, the government has already passed on to the private sector, saying that no, we can't do all of this, so you take care of some part of this provision of education, and you provide education. But the other part is something that the government must do. It just cannot absolve itself from that responsibility. You see, dropout is a result of both pull and push factors. School is actually not a very attractive place for our children, for various reasons that have been already spelled out over here. Schools will have to be made attractive for children. Things will have to be provided to schools so that the school becomes a place where a child looks forward to go to early in the morning. This is not the case now at this time. And the responsibility lies squarely with the government. The government must actually, the state must provide all these factors. The schools have very poor teaching. The teachers are ill-trained, uninteresting learning method, and corporal punishment. All of these things have been already highlighted. The last thing that I would like to say is about this report. I saw that a large number of factors were brought out about the failure of girls to get educated. What I failed to see was how many of these factors also applied to boys. Boys are also not all in schools. These two factors, which sort of impinge on girls as well as boys, have not been quite nicely separated out in this report. They should have been. We should have known what specific factors impede the girls' education. Then we would have addressed those issues quite properly. Those issues which are common to both girls' and boys' education will perhaps be about the entire system of education, but not to girls' education as such. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nayyar. The focus of this study was on girls' education, but you're right, perhaps some follow-up work is needed. We'll open up the floor for questions. We have about 15 minutes. Please ask questions in English, Urdu, whatever language you want, and just restrict yourself to the question. Please, yes, sir, you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I agree with you, sir, because the report did not include the adverse effect of all these factors on the boys' education. So the audience is not in a position to compare that how these factors affect boys' education and girls' education separately. As far as the quality of education is concerned, these poor students, what do they know about the quality of education? Even if we provide them bad quality education, that will be better than no education.
Sir,
you? I think we all are for education. We are for getting all those out-of-school children into school, we say. And then at the lower level, the report shows that there are many problems, but that is in a way also to blame the lower levels. The policies are probably okay, but who is it who is against education? Who is it who is against girls' education? We need to name and shame, but we also need to get them on board so that they are part of the campaign to get everybody to school in Pakistan. It's a shame on Pakistan that we have this terrible situation in education, and people are practical and they are for it. I think people at the lower levels would have education for all if we have the opinion builders, if we have all these people and institutions and structures who are against education to be on the side with the government, with the policies. So we have some work to do there. We have to say who is against education for all and for girls. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman behind you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum. First of all, I would agree with Ms. Jatoi's one point that she raised that, it's a mindset that actually needs to be changed. I would say generally towards education and specifically towards girls' education. So, as I've seen certain programs, programs, arranged by UN and certain NGOs regarding trainers and other things like. But what impedes those programs? What are the obstacles that those programs do not succeed? Are the mindset, I believe so. So my question with you, Ms. Jatoi, being part of the government is that what are you or even UN is doing in regarding this, changing the mindset of society, the teachers and their parents regarding education in general and regarding girls' education in specifically?
Thank you very much. When I talked of mindset and its change, I was not brave enough like Dr. Nayyar when he highlighted that it's mullahs. I was trying to be very diplomatic and saying that it should be the mindset which should be changed, and that should be not only part of the government or government's commitment to change the mindset. It should be a collective responsibility of all citizens, of all stakeholders, of the communities, of the parents. It should be a pressure building policy where we can change the mindsets. Thank you.
Okay, Haris, and then if you want to ask a follow-up question, we'll come back to you. Do you have a follow-up question? No?
I want to make a comment.
Okay, just one brief comment.
Yeah, you are talking about mullahs. I would say there are bagair dadi wale mullahs also. It's a general mindset, mullah mindset.
Haris, and then we'll come to you.
Thank you, Safiya. I actually wanted to say something else, but this gets me excited, the whole debate about radicalization in Pakistan and its links to many other things, including barriers to girls' education. You see, it's a little more complex. There certainly is an extremist thought which impedes and hinders education per se, particularly girls' education, because the whole battle of Islamic ideology is being fought on a woman's body. So that is one thing. Undoubtedly it is there. But this growth in extremism we witness in the last 10, 15, 20 years. The country has been around for 70 odd years, or about 70 years. I don't think, there's something much more to just this recent surge in extremist religious interpretation. There's much more to that. And there is no commitment by the state in Pakistan at any level for the last, so many years to invest in education and particularly in girls' education. I mean, you look at the budgets, you look at the institutions which the government or the state wants to, to function, they function. I mean, NADRA functions, the civil registry that we have. Motorway police functions. And I don't think it's the priority. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I want to be one. But I think it is a deliberate action against the people of Pakistan. Not investing in education, and of course, making it even more, this becomes more complex with this new surge of extremism. But that is not the only reason. I would humbly submit. Thank you.
I agreed
Definitely not a priority, yes, for you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My question will start after my comment. As you have said that all the reasons are lying on the mullahs, and my husband is also a religious person. He has a beard and he is kind of mullah, but still he is very much positive about the education. And I think to some extent you may be right, but I will obviously not say this, that the mullahs are the reason and they are having some kind of thoughts that is all against the education of the female or girls. And I think the basic thing is the training of the teacher is very, very must, because of the teachers the students are out there, and because they are not very kind, they are not very human, or they are not very generous. So I think the basic thing is, you have to train the teachers in the best possible way. And when we will have the great teachers, everything will be very, very positive in the Pakistan. Thank you very much.
मैं ज़रा उर्दू में बात करना चाहूँगा। प्रोटोकॉल के अंदर जो उन्होंने लास्ट में उस आदमी ने लिखा था जीएस के बारे में, तो अच्छा जीएस में उसने जो लास्ट में लिखा था प्रोटोकॉल में, उसमें कहा था कि एक आदमी जो है, आपके जो बच्चे हैं, एक को बनाए आप वकील और एक को बनाए आप टीचर। उससे ये होगा कि इस माशरे के अंदर वो उसकी सारी की तरबियत करेंगे और उसके बाद कोई किसी पर मजहबी एतराज़ ना करे। उससे पहले आपने ये देखा होगा प्रोटोकॉल के अंदर जब उसने किताब लिखी तो जूस जो थे उन पर बहुत ज़्यादा अमेरिका के अंदर उनको सख्ती थी, उनके रहने के लिए उनके बहुत ज़्यादा मसाइल थे। तो जब ये हुआ तो अब इस वक्त भी इवन के अमेरिका के अंदर ज़्यादातर जो है वो यहूदी जो हैं वो टीचर हैं और लायर हैं। तो उन्होंने फिर पूरे माशरे की तरबियत करना शुरू कर दी। तो मेरे ख्याल में यही मेरे लिए था, मैं आपको बता देना चाहता। थैंक यू।
The point is that no section in the society wants to put a niqab on woman and forces a woman to remain confined to the boundaries of the household than a mullah. It is the mullah, yet it is that mullah which does that. So now we have these examples. We have the examples of the Mullah Raj in Afghanistan, we have the examples of Mullah Raj in some of the northern areas, and we have therefore the individual, those individuals who impose their thinking on their own households or their surroundings. The first thing they do is to somehow put restrictions on women, and I think one of those restrictions that they put is on education.
I think perhaps the gentleman's point is that not all Maulvis are the same, and there are stripes of extremists. I think that's what we want to say. Last question from there, please.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मेरा नाम इमरान खान है और दरस व तदरीस के शोबे से वाबस्ता हूँ। सवाल ये है कि हम हर वक्त ब्लेम करते हैं मुल्ला हजरात को या तालिबान को कि ख़वातीन के एजुकेशन के ख़िलाफ़ हैं, लेकिन हम सिंध में, बलूचिस्तान में, पंजाब में उन चौधरियों वडेरों की तरफ क्यों नहीं जाते जो हमारी बच्चियों को और खुसूसन वो तालीम के ख़िलाफ़ हैं। स्कूलों के अंदर उन वडेरों के ख़िलाफ़ भी एक प्रोग्राम होना चाहिए, उन वडेरों के ख़िलाफ़ इस तरह बैठ कर एक बात होनी चाहिए। उसमें कुछ हमारे मिनिस्टर्स भी इन्वॉल्व हैं, कुछ हमारे नेशनल असम्बली के मेंबर्स भी इन्वॉल्व हैं, और स्कूल्स को हमारे जो है भैंसों के बाड़े बनाया हुआ है, बाड़ों की शक्ल में तब्दील किया हुआ है। तो इस हवाले से भी बात होनी चाहिए। शुक्रिया।
You're right, जी, बहुत से एलिमेंट्स हैं सोसाइटी में। जी, I'll just give the floor to Vibeke for one last comment, and I think we'll have to end after that. I'm sorry, we are running out of time. जी, by the way, there are copies of the report. पीछे report की copies हैं जी, जिसको पढ़नी है please, free copies हैं, आप उठा लीजिए please.
Yeah, just to say thank you very much. It's a pity we don't have another hour to really continue this debate. I think the debate and the study demonstrates that education is very complex. But I would like to go back to the point I made and respond partly to what was raised about the mindsets. Mindsets also have to do with the quality of education. If we are teaching children to to think, to resolve problems, to respect diversity and be inclusive and consider everyone, then we would not have a lot of the problems we have today. Secondly, I agree very much with the gentleman there and also the lady on the first row. We do need to work on the education system. And the supply of education as it is today is not good enough. You know, lack of teachers, lack of qualified teachers, lack of good teaching learning processes, infrastructure that prevents girls from and boys from being in school. If we deliver on that, I think that we'll see that a lot, maybe not all, but a lot of the other problems will solve themselves.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but thank you very much for being here. And as I said, copies of the report are available.